welcome to the M Sisters podcast. You're here today with your hosts, Anna and Maria Setting, bringing your favorite twin talk of the week. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the beauty and wonder of nature. And we're going to explain, just give a little tips of how to live a better life, more sustainably and more friendly to the environment. And as well, talk about our relation to Earth in general, how we create our relationship to it, the stories we tell about it, and how humans interact with this planet we live in.
Mm-hmm. And I think the last few days, the last week, many people were talking about environmentalism and how to take care of planet Earth because it was Earth Day. But I think it's important to reflect on this topic, not only during one day or 1 week, but actually every day and always, because this is the planet that we are living and it provides everything we need, and we should be aware that about what we are doing here and how we can contribute to a better environment to everyone, not only humans, but also our animals, plants, and the ecosystems all over the world, right?
That's right. And I think it's important because there are so many species and animals and plants and everything coexisting in this earth, but human beings are really responsible for a lot of the damage that exists nowadays. So it's important to think about our responsibility as the humankind,
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember a talk that Yuval Harari had with Natalie Portman a few years ago. And I think it's interesting when they mentioned that human beings, they are this powerful species because we are able to create narratives and things that are not our own reality. We can create stories and we can create things that are not real. So we were able to build this huge societies and cooperate with each other. And even like the narrative of money. What is money? A piece of paper? We have to trust, and this ability to trust and, create this ancestry, common ancestry, for example. Oh, we both come from the same family, we're brothers and sisters, so we trust each other, even though they don't know each other. It's something that is unique for human beings. So this allowed us to be extremely powerful and impact the life of everyone around us, all animals and all, the environment itself. And I think because we have such a huge amount of power in our hands, we have to be really careful about it, and also really aware of what it is causing to the planet itself.
Yes, but the beautiful part in it is that this capacity of storytelling, this capacity of abstraction and thinking possibilities instead of just reality, what's going on in this present moment, is that we can look ahead and we can look at our present and think about future possibilities. So if something is not going right, we can think of ways to improve that. And we can, if we cause problems or, bad situations right now, we can also think of solutions. And this abstraction part also goes into how we interact with nature and also the creations of, for example, divinity around nature, because like I was telling you yesterday, because I was thinking like, oh, animals don't stop to contemplate nature because they simply are part of nature. So I was even saying, like, for example, a bird won't stop flying to watch the sunset, like we do. We stop walking or we stopped our way to appreciate the sunset and see the colors and all those things. But because those animals simply they are part of nature, and human beings, we kind of create the separation from it. But at the same time, because we have the separation, culturally, we could see nature as divinity. We could see nature as later on as like expression of our own capacity to think about divinity as well. Because like in the past, literally like mountains were like the gods would live in the mountains or the spirits would live in the mountains. Certain places like in Asia, it's pretty common, or in Hawaii they would like honor the volcanoes and all those things. But later on, we just have this feeling of connection to something bigger than us by contemplating nature. So if you see some beautiful, breathtaking view, you feel like this connection to something bigger than yourself. But like you were saying, this is all part of being human, because other animals, they don't experience that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important to mention that, because we don't see planet Earth as just this huge ball of fire with water, earth, and atmosphere. It is much more than that. It's not only its physicality, it's everything we put into it. It's the spirituality, it's the mystery, it's the tales and stories, it's the people who live here, and the animals and the plants. And I think it's really easy for us to, as back in the days as a society, to think about deities connected to nature, because they are so powerful and unexplainable. Many unexplainable events. For example, imagine if you don't really know how a thunderstorms happen, and suddenly a lightning comes down and crashes into a tree and everything is burning. It's like, oh my goodness, the gods must be infuriated. And I think it's so important, because this also gives people this magical atmosphere to it, but it's also a form of almost like containing their own behavior. If we don't behave in a good way that is accepted in this small society that we live in, the gods are going to be really mad at us. So I think it's interesting how they connect all these points of like social control with gods and goddesses and nature itself as the container of all this. It's really interesting.
And I was even thinking, like, because like you said, like the lightning comes down and fire starts burning. This, you think about like primitive societies, but even like in what is considered civilized societies like the Roman Empire, they used to, when they went to a new place to build a city, they would build a place that is called the umbilicus, like the belly button, the center of the place, and they would sacrifice things for the earth. So like, here's the starting point of the city. So we honor and we give you this. So let us build our place. And even I saw, I think in Scotland, in the past, they used to sacrifice someone before building a house. So they would bury the person on the ground like an offering. So please don't destroy our house. And like, it's crazy how things happen. And it's not only in one place, in various places, those things happen, like those human offerings, even sometimes animal offerings, but just like this exchange with nature. Because like in ancient times, people knew the power of nature, like an earthquake could demolish everything around us. And because we didn't have like technology or ways to avoid it, we can avoid it right now, even, right? We can just like contain the aftershock, or build our stuff in a way that it's not going to crumble. But yeah, it's really interesting how in the past to kind of deal with that, maybe in a psychological level, is like this trading aspect with nature.
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because nowadays, if you knew there was a body buried beneath your house, you would be freaking out.
Yeah, the spirit is haunting the house.
Yes, there's a spirit here. Call the priest to exorcise. Yeah, it would be something really, really different. But yeah, I think it's really interesting how we can create all the stories around nature. And somehow it allowed us to respect nature more and be aware that it is, if we're taking something, we should do something in return. We should retribute with a kind of offering, not like a human life or an animal life, but be respectful and not only like exploiting what nature has to give to us. So I think it's also important for us to talk about nowadays, right? Even though we have lost some of this connection to Mother Earth, when we start becoming aware that it is a living being, the planet Earth, for me, it's a living being, and we are like cohabiting this place with other beings, and having this connection back and being aware that we are only part of this. We're not, controlling and kings and queens of all this. It's not like a land that we should conquer. It's something that we should respect and just, be grateful to be here. Lead us to be a little more conscious about what we do and what we use and how we live, actually.
I think for people who doubt the power of nature, they can just think about the possibility. Looking back what you were saying about story, you can just think, you don't need to do. Think about you in the middle of a jungle. Would you survive? I wouldn't. I'm pretty sure. So just imagining the situation, you can be more respectful towards the environment, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And so, what do you think are the most important things or the first steps that someone should take in order to be a little more environmentally friendly?
There are so many things in our daily life that we don't think about. For example, even like closing the tap when you're not using the water. It's simple, very simple, like brush your teeth, close it, But also many choices you make, like the food you eat, it impacts a lot the environment in many levels. So it can be from choosing products that is, cultivated near you. And you also help like small farmers and the community around you because the carbon imprint is going to be much lower than if you keep buying, you want your avocado toast and you live in the other side of the world. That's not very sustainable, even though once in a while we do crave those things, but maybe it shouldn't be part of everyday life if it's not locally produced. And the way, for example, the choices of food you have. So if you choose to live a vegan lifestyle or a vegetarian lifestyle, your carbon imprint is going to be much lesser as well. Even if you don't care much for the animals, even though you should, if you just care about the environment, that's another thing.
Mm-hmm. And that leads us to, some people, they don't call themselves vegan or vegetarian. They only say like a plant-based diet.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I don't really agree with that. I mean, some people, they do that because they don't want to associate themselves with all the connotations that come with being a vegan or the activism behind it. But I think it's important, like someone has to spread the message. I do agree that sometimes the message can be a little rough and people they don't want to see that. Some people are not ready to see that, but it's almost like living blindly if you don't know what's happening. So yeah, I believe we should talk about this more openly. And, if someone asks you, why are you this or that? Are you vegetarian? Are you vegan? I think it's pretty important to explain. Of course, I think we passed through phases we are a little more aggressive, some others that we are less. But throughout time, I've learned how to express myself a little better and make people understand. I mean, some people have even tried to become vegetarians after we talked for a while. So it's important, if you are a vegetarian or vegan, try to make other people understand the cause, even though they may not be willing to see all the suffering behind it. But yeah.
But the levels of aggressiveness
has changed.
Because I remember 14-year-old me, I was an angry person. And I was like, you're eating a corpse, So I learned that this approach does not work, People feel like they're personally attacked, so they won't do anything. They'll just like fight you back and start saying hideous things to you and making fun of your lifestyle, even though you're trying to make the best you can. But but nowadays it's more like really trying to teach people and just open their eyes so everyone can make their own decision. If they, after being aware of what's going on in the farming, in the, for example, milk industry and the meat industry and all those things, how those animals are treated and how this is impacting the environment in general. I mean, if they want to continue with their lifestyles, okay, but at least now they are aware and it's a choice, not something that is blindly imposed on them as well.
And I think it's interesting how some people, they think about young people who become vegan or vegetarian, and they think they're in this fantasy world, just being, different and against everything. But actually, those people who don't care, they're actually living in the fantasy because they don't want to see the reality in anything. They don't want to see the reality on the meat industry. They don't want to see the reality, for example, on the clothing industry. They don't want to see the reality on like childhood labor, and then we are the crazy ones living in a utopic world. I don't think so.
But also like some even young people, they're just like, but I'm gonna miss the taste of this, like I don't think I can live without tarara, and I just think this is so
selfish.
I don't know,
a little bit. For me, I feel it's a little, I think people have their priorities, for me it is not a priority for me, to taste something that I used to like. So on the topic of it,
they're not open to new things because once you go vegan, you like the amount of recipes and beautiful things you learn is just amazing. So actually people say, you like kind of restrict your life, but actually you open doors to new things. And go ahead.
I would just say on the lines of veganism, I think it's important to, like my sister was saying, support local brands and local stores, but also when you are shopping for other things like cosmetics or even like pharmaceuticals in general, if you find something that is vegan, it's better, I believe, because I'm really against testing in animals. So it's something that you should be aware of if you also care about this. So choosing vegan brands is also something that you can support the environment and also organic things because they're not using lots of chemicals and toxins to on your food, on the things that you're using.
Yeah. And what I was going to say as well, I just think it's so insane that some people find, for example, some luxury brands, they sell bags made out of crocodile skin or snake skin. And I just think this is so, it's almost unbelievable that some people find it, they buy it, and it's so expensive just because it's something fancy, just because, it's seen as something exclusive. But actually there's so much cruelty behind it that I just find it's horrible. And leather, there are so many vegan options. There's leather made out of pineapples and mushrooms and grape skin and so many other things, So I think people just need to open their minds a little bit and stop. Even like fur, some people still buy fur, and this blows my mind because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
I agree. And another thing that people can do if they are into being more environmentally friendly is become I wouldn't say completely minimalist because it's quite difficult for some people, but embrace the idea of minimalism. In our case here, we had to embrace it because we were traveling a lot and it was quite difficult to, move around with lots of stuff. It's impossible actually. So our lives had to be reduced into like 2 suitcases. And that was it. And even now, I don't feel that I'm in a place where I can settle. I mean, I live in a dorm. So no, of course I can't. But this also makes me conscious of everything I buy. I know if I buy something, I'll have to substitute another thing for this thing that I bought. It's not that I can have 2 of those because there's no space. And it also makes me aware of the amount of things that we have And that actually we shouldn't be buying things that are not, I believe I prefer to buy less, really less, and something that will last longer than something that will last like very shortly, like one season or 1 year. 1 year for me is a short time for you to see my mindset, right? So yeah, something that lasts a long time, it's ideal, and something that it's easy to wear. That's why I think I never really bought any colorful clothes after a while. In the past 3 years, I think, no colorful clothes at all, because I know some people don't like it. They're like, you're always wearing black, but it's so much easier, I think. And maybe in the future, when I have a little more space, I can buy some things that are colorful. But now it's quite impossible, I think.
I do like some colorful clothes sometimes, but I make them work. So, but I agree. Statement pieces that last a very long time. Those are the important ones. Also, I think it's cool to repurpose clothes. So if you're, for example, when I moved to this new place that I'm in, I didn't want some clothes because I had to carry a lot of things, not only my belongings, but also like, have a sofa and this and that, and it's too much to carry. So I gave my clothes to some friends that wanted them because they were in a really good state. I didn't want to throw them in the trash. So you can just find people who like them if you get tired of them and you're like, oh, it's not my style anymore. For sure, other people will still enjoy that. And I see my clothes on some friends and they rock it really beautifully. I was like, oh, it looks great on you. Even though I didn't like them myself, it looks amazing. And I got some clothes from other friends. So it's like exchanging. And even like my mom gave me some clothes that when she was younger, because it was so good quality, I still use them, even though it's like decades. And I think that's wonderful. And I hope I have those kind of pieces that I can pass on to next generation instead of buying like fast fashion that, next month it has a hole and you have to throw away. Or like sew and wears your pajamas.
Totally agree. And I think you should try it, really. And I think it's so funny because when I was trying to help my mom to, separate some of her stuff and just keep the things she really likes, I used to say, you have to think like Marie Kondo. What brings you joy? Like what brings you, how does she say? Like a spark? A spark of joy, yeah. And she was just laughing at me. But that's true, if you have something that doesn't bring this sparkle of joy, probably it's not something that you really need.
But choose a good day. Choose a day you have a good mood. Because if you're in a bad mood, you're going to throw your entire house out of the window.
Nothing brings me joy.
Nothing brings me joy. Yeah. Do you have another tip for our listeners about how to live a more environmental friendly life?
I'll say that's the most important tips on how to begin your journey on sustainability.
I would also say buy a shopping bag,
Oh, yeah.
Because
but that's
we can't use plastic anymore. That's old story, but girl, every day you go to the supermarket, people are still with those big, plastic bags. And I just bought a huge, like a very big, bag that is made of strong tissue. Actually, it's for tools to fix the house. But I take that to the market, and
you can even use the IKEA bag.
Yeah,
really big. I saw some people in the supermarket using the IKEA bag. What else? I think also
instead of buying plastic containers, use the glass ones. They're easier to clean. And
metal straws, metal straws, metal razors. Everything that you throw away, usually you can substitute to something you can use for a long time. So you just have to pay attention. What am I throwing in my trash all the time? Probably you can substitute that. But in Japan, it's quite difficult to find stuff without packaging. They love to put packaging around everything. And it's really hard. I really wish I could go to a store that, you bring your own jar and you fill it up. But I haven't found a place like this here, which is really bad. But, well, We do what we can.
The only place I know that is like this here in Seoul, if you're here listening, there is one lady, she's from the United States, and she opened her like plastic-free store. So you just take your own container and you buy the things. But the thing is, it doesn't have everything you need. It's just like, it's not like a supermarket, you know? So, but for example, I got the stainless steel razor there. It's really good. It works wonders, but be careful. It's really sharp. But that thing is going to last me for a lifetime, probably, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the thought.
Also, moving on, I think we can talk about how we can connect to Mother Earth, right? Not only being friendly and trying to produce less garbage and trash, but like how we can connect spiritually and physically with Mother Earth. I know it's funny because during the time I had to stay at home for a long time, I kind of reconnected with Mother Earth. Even though I was not going outside, even though I was not like with a huge park around me, but I could reconnect to it on a inner level or spiritual level through, for example, meditation or guided meditation, where you can even see like the spirit of Mother Earth if you are into it. Like I said, I believe it's a being, so I've been called Mother, she, so. And I believe this feminine energy of Mother Earth is so powerful, and it's really like the divine goddess itself in some ways, because she's so nurturing and she provides everything we need, but also so powerful. Do you want to comment on that, on the powerful part?
Yeah, because come on, Mother Earth is really powerful. If you think about like the volcanoes that are in Iceland, isn't it? That just erupted. My gosh, it's out of this world. And you can see the lava coming from beneath, you know, and just like flooding everything around. And of course, it's really dangerous. So I think in those moments you realize the hidden power that it has. And also, like, if we don't take climate change seriously, if we don't take all those things that are going on seriously, it's just like a very small demonstration of what can happen, you know? So Mother Earth is nurturing, indeed, very much. Mother Earth is creative power. So when you're lacking creativity, you can connect to it. But at the same time, Mother Earth should be respected.
Very yeah, I have my own personal experience with that.
Oh yeah.
The last few months, I guess was like 2 months ago or 1 month ago, we had for me, it was pretty big earthquake here. And I had to go downstairs, and, you know, everyone had to stay in the area here outside the building, because it was like no alerts of tsunami, which was good, but I was like so scared. And I remember I was like, you know, when you have your belief, sometimes you say like, oh God, help me. But in my case, I was like, Mother Earth, thank you for keeping me alive. Please protect me. I know it's you. Please protect me. I had this powerful, you know, conversation with Mother Earth, and I was so afraid. But yeah.
But even the possibility of having a tsunami, because you said, oh, there was no sign of tsunami, but even the possibility, that's very scary.
And I live really close to the ocean, so it's pretty scary. Yeah. But yeah, and I think it's interesting to think about the Mother Earth as a spirit itself. For example, in shamanism, it's really about spirituality and connection with the earth. And it's so beautiful, and uses like symbols of animals and the nature itself. And every element of nature has its own spirit. So the spirit of the mountain, of the waterfall, of the lake, of everything. And it's so powerful and beautiful because we recognize that everything is alive. And it's not because it doesn't have a human face that we shouldn't recognize it as being, right?
Also, I think connecting to Earth or a specific place you live nearby is really powerful to bring a sense of belonging to somewhere, because you can recognize everything that went through that place. and how much that earth, that ground sustained throughout history. And just like, even if you don't know who your ancestors were or any of those things, you can just like close your eyes and imagine like the connection, because the land's still the same. And it's just like really deep ancient things if you think about it. And as you were saying, in shamanism, at least in Latin America, it's really beautiful. They call it like Mother Earth, Father Sky, Grandmother Moon, and Grandfather Sun. So if you think about it, all those elements are part of our lives, and you can, because they're called as mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, they're also part of our family, if you think about it. And they're also taking care of us. They're all necessary for our survival. And not, it can be this lineage, like family in a sense of humanity, but also in a personal sense if you want to.
And honestly, we wouldn't be here without any of them.
Yes. So I think like Earth Day, even though, like we said, should be every day, and we should consider it in all decisions we make in our lives, it's good that we have this day to make people stop and think about it. You know, I think some years ago, before the 70s, it would be crazy just to think about naming a day for the earth. But nowadays, like, we know, I think it's kind of a shift in consciousness if you think about it. Like slowly acknowledging our place, acknowledging how technology is important, but also the natural environment. It is much, much more, I think.
Mm-hmm. And thank you very much for listening. And if you have any ideas on how we could have those small changes in our day-to-day lives and become more sustainable, please let us know. And also tell us what you are doing to contribute to the planet Earth and how to rebuild it and make it a better place for every being here and for the Earth itself. And so thank you very much for listening. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Please, if you're listening us on the podcast, leave us a review. If you're listening us on YouTube and you liked it, please leave us a like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, hope to see you on the next video. Thank you so much.
If you have any requests of topic you want us to cover in the podcast, please let us know as well in the comment section, and see you next week. Thank you so much and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.